Do you know what it feels like to stand inches away from your own child and have her look at you like a stranger? Daniel Bennett never imagined those words would leave his lips. But that afternoon, drenched in rain and regret staring into the eyes of a little girl humming a lullaby he hadn't heard in 9 years, everything inside him shattered. His heart raced, his throat tightened, and a single terrifying question echoed in his mind. What if this child is mine, and I failed her without ever knowing it? This wasn't just a story about a missing woman or forgotten love. This was a story about betrayal, loss, and a man desperate for redemption in a world that had stolen everything he loved. If you stay, you'll witness a moment so raw, so soul-crushing, that it will change everything you thought you knew about love, fate, and forgiveness. It had been raining since dawn in Chicago, cold, steady, relentless. The kind of rain that soaked through even the thickest coat and made the city feel heavier, quieter. But on the corner of Madison and 8th, in the heart of the weekday gridlock, a little girl stood barefoot in a pair of tattered jeans and an oversized sweatshirt. Her name was Emma Rivera, and she was holding a sponge in one hand and a plastic bucket in the other. She wasn't just there to scrub windshields, she had a strategy. Emma sang, and her voice was something else. Soft, lyrical, haunting. People didn't expect it. They never did. Especially not from a child soaked to the bone, barely 9 years old, working the streets like she'd done it all her life. But she had. Ever since her mom, Isabel, passed away in a fire 6 years ago, Emma had lived with her grandmother in a cramped room in the Bridgeview district. Every dollar mattered. Inside a sleek black Mercedes parked just a few feet away, Daniel Bennett, billionaire and founder of Bennett International Hotels, was seated in the back seat, reviewing quarterly projections for his luxury properties in Paris, Dubai, and New York. His driver, Tom, glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Sir, traffic's stuck. We'll be late for the Tokyo investors' call." Daniel didn't answer. He barely looked up. For him, being late had long lost meaning. For 9 years now, time had felt suspended, frozen in the moment when Isabel disappeared. But then he heard it, a melody, barely audible through the rain, but unmistakable. A lullaby, one he hadn't heard in almost a decade. The soft, aching notes pierced through the windows of his car like a ghost stepping into the present. Daniel's eyes flicked up and then froze. There, standing right in front of his car, was the girl. She was wiping the windshield with slow practiced movements, but she was singing. And the song was the exact same one Isabel used to sing to their unborn child. His heart slammed against his ribs. For a moment he couldn't breathe. The sound of her voice, so eerily familiar, made his hands tremble. "Sleep now, my darling, close your sweet eyes. The rain may fall, but love never dies." Daniel hadn't heard that lullaby since the night he lost everything. He'd been just starting to make it back then. Still broke, but climbing. He and Isabel had rented a small apartment. He had just landed his first investment deal. And then, the fire, a phone call, screams, flames, and silence. They never found her. She was pregnant. 2 months. He'd never gotten to say goodbye. Never known what became of her or the child. And now here she was, or was she? The girl finished wiping the windshield and stepped to the driver's window. Daniel hesitated. Then he pressed the button. The glass slid down. Her eyes were dark, wide, intelligent. "Hi, sir," she said shyly. "Did you like my singing?" "What's your name?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Emma," she smiled. "Emma Rivera." His breath caught. Rivera, Isabel's last name. "Where did you learn that song?" he asked, barely whispering. "My mom used to sing it to me," she said, "before she passed." Daniel stared at her, his knuckles white. "What was her name?" She hesitated, then looked up at him like she wasn't sure she should tell a stranger. But then she said it. "Isabel Rivera." The world collapsed. Daniel didn't remember what he said next, only that his hand shook as he pulled out a $100 bill and handed it to her. "Come back tomorrow." "Same place." Emma nodded, stunned by the generous tip. Daniel quickly rolled up the window and leaned forward. "Tom, go. Now!" As the car pulled away through the traffic, Daniel looked back through the rearview mirror. She stood there under the rain, waving her sponge hanging from one hand. Was it possible? Could it really be? He hadn't slept properly in years, but that night Daniel didn't even try. He walked the polished floors of his penthouse like a ghost, replaying every second of that encounter in his mind. The voice, the eyes, the song, the name. At 6:00 a.m., he picked up his phone and called Jack Morrison, his most trusted private investigator. "I need everything you can find on a girl named Emma Rivera. 9 years old, lives somewhere near Bridgeview. She cleans windshields at Madison and 8th. Jack groaned, half asleep. "It's 6 in the morning. I don't care what time it is. I need it today. Her birth certificate, her mother's death record, who she lives with, everything." "Daniel, I need to say it. We've been down this road before." "This time's different," Daniel said quietly. "This time I heard her." But before Jack could start his work, another encounter would push Daniel deeper into a storm he wasn't prepared for. That afternoon, unable to wait, Daniel returned to the corner on foot. This time he left the designer suit behind and wore jeans and a plain shirt. He wanted to blend in. The air smelled like gasoline and city dust. The rain had stopped, but the clouds still loomed. He waited. An hour passed. Then she appeared, running, carrying her bucket and sponge. When she saw him, her face lit up. "Hey, mister, you came back. I told you I would." Daniel smiled, though his chest tightened. "You need your car cleaned again?" "Actually, I came to ask if you've had lunch." She shook her head. "I haven't made any money yet. Do you want to grab something together, just at that food cart over there? You can keep your eyes on me the whole time." She hesitated. "My grandma says not to trust strangers." "Your grandma's right. She sounds very wise." Emma looked at him, squinting, like she was trying to decide if he was dangerous or just lonely. "Okay," she said, "but only if you buy me a quesadilla." They sat under a faded umbrella and ordered food from a vendor Daniel had never noticed before. Emma ate like she hadn't had a full meal in days. Daniel couldn't stop staring at her. Her laugh, her mannerisms, the way she scrunched her nose when she didn't like something. Just like Isabel. "What do you do for work?" she asked between bites. "I build hotels," he said, keeping it simple. "Like the ones in movies." "Kind of." "I want to stay in a hotel one day," she said wistfully. "My mom always said the big ones have pools and free breakfast." Daniel swallowed hard. "Who taught you that lullaby?" "My mom," she replied, lowering her eyes. "It was her favorite. She'd sing it when I had nightmares. She said it was her song for me and for someone else too. But she never said who." Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He had to be sure. Had to know the truth. Because in that moment, he wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't a CEO. He was just a man who might have found his child in the middle of a city that never cared who you were, and he couldn't afford to lose her again. What would you do if someone you lost years ago suddenly reappeared in the most unexpected way? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, please give it a like. Daniel Bennett didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. The sound of her voice haunted him, the way she looked at him, the way she said her mother's name, and that song, the one Isabel had only ever whispered to their unborn child when the world was still gentle. By morning, he had canceled his meetings, ignored his team's messages, and shut down his phone. He didn't care about shareholders. He didn't care about mergers or his hotels. There was only one thing that mattered now: the truth. At exactly 6:00 a.m., his private investigator, Jack Morrison, showed up at the penthouse holding a thick manila folder. Daniel yanked open the door before Jack could knock. "Tell me you found something." Jack walked in slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes were heavy. "Sit down, Daniel. This isn't a 10-second conversation." Daniel didn't sit. He stood frozen as Jack opened the folder and started laying out papers one by one. "Her name is Emma Rivera, born 9 years ago at St. Luke's Hospital. Her mother, Isabel Rivera, unmarried, age 25 at the time of birth." Daniel stared at the document. His heart beat like a war drum in his chest. She lived with her mother in the Bridgeview district. Then 6 years ago, a fire broke out in their building. Isabel didn't make it out. Emma survived. She's been raised by her grandmother, Margaret Rivera, ever since. Jack slid over a photo. It was Isabel. Her face was thinner, her hair shorter, but it was her, the woman he had loved more than anyone else in his life, the one he had lost in the blink of an eye. Daniel gripped the photo tightly, feeling the edges cut into his palm. "She was pregnant when she disappeared," he murmured. Jack nodded. "All the timelines line up. And there's something else." He reached into the folder again and pulled out a birth certificate. Daniel looked at it, his eyes locked on one line. "Father unknown." He closed his eyes. The words crushed him. "She didn't tell anyone," Daniel whispered. "She didn't even put my name." "There's more," Jack said carefully. "I also looked into your old mail logs, your outgoing correspondence around that time. Something doesn't add up." Daniel's eyes snapped open. "What do you mean you sent dozens of letters to Isabel after she vanished?" "I tracked some of them to your old assistant, your former partner, Richard Caldwell." The name hit Daniel like a punch to the chest. Richard had been his closest friend back then, his co-founder, the one who helped him build the hotel chain from scratch. The same man who comforted him when Isabel disappeared, who insisted she had left on purpose, that she never wanted to be found. Jack continued, "Richard had access to everything, your calls, your mail, even your security passes. And Isabel, she sent letters too, but none of them reached you." Daniel backed away like the air had suddenly grown toxic. "He blocked them," he said, his voice hollow. "He kept them from me. All these years. It all made sense now. Why no one ever responded. Why the trail always went cold. Isabel had tried to reach him, and he had tried to reach her, but Richard had destroyed every bridge between them." Daniel felt like the floor was tilting. Guilt mixed with rage, shame with grief. He'd blamed her for vanishing. He'd blamed himself for being too busy. But all along it was someone else's betrayal that stole their future. "I want to see her," he said. "Emma and Margaret." Later that day, Daniel returned to the Bridgeview district. He wasn't wearing a suit. He didn't bring bodyguards or his driver. He carried nothing but a photo of Isabel and the aching truth in his chest. He knocked on the door of apartment 3B. It opened slowly. Margaret Rivera stood on the other side, wary arms crossed. "You," she said. Daniel cleared his throat. "I need to talk to you." She didn't move. "I know who you are, and I know what you did." "I didn't leave her," he said quickly. "I never abandoned Isabel." "Then explain why she died, thinking you didn't care." Margaret's voice cracked like a whip. Emma peeked out from behind the door. Her eyes lit up, then flickered with confusion. Daniel looked at her, then back at Margaret. "Please, let me explain." Something in his voice made Margaret hesitate. Finally, she stepped aside. 5 minutes. That was all she gave him. Inside the apartment was small but clean. On the table sat a single-frame photo of Isabel. Daniel's throat closed up when he saw it. He held up the picture Jack had given him. "That's the Isabel I knew," he said. "We were together. We were in love. When she vanished, I searched for her. For years. I sent letters, hired investigators. I thought she left me. I didn't know she was pregnant." Margaret's eyes burned. "She sent you letters too. Dozens. She cried every time she wrote one." "I never got them," Daniel said. "Someone made sure I didn't." Margaret looked skeptical. Then slowly she walked to a closet and pulled out a shoebox tied with red ribbon. "These are hers. I kept them after the fire." Daniel opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were yellowed envelopes, his name written in her handwriting. He read the first one. "Daniel, I'm pregnant. It's yours. I'm scared but happy. Please write back." He choked on a sob. The second letter. "She's born. Her name is Emma. She has your eyes." The third dated just before the fire. "I'm sick. I don't know how long I have. But Emma keeps asking about her dad. I told her one day you'd come." Daniel couldn't hold back the tears. Emma was silent, watching, studying him. "Are you my dad?" she asked. He looked at her through watery eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, I am." She didn't rush to him. She didn't smile. She just stared. "Then why did it take you so long?" Daniel knelt down. "Because I was lost. And someone made sure I stayed lost. But I swear to you, I'll never be lost again." For a moment, the room was silent. The only sound was the rain beginning again outside. Then without a word, Emma walked over and wrapped her arms around him. Daniel closed his eyes and held her close. He had found her. Finally. And this time he wasn't letting go. If you were in Daniel's shoes, would you be able to forgive the people who kept you from your child? Tell us what you think in the comments, and if this chapter moved you, please drop a heart for the story. From the moment Emma wrapped her arms around Daniel, something inside him shifted quietly but permanently. It wasn't just relief. It wasn't even joy. It was a deep, soul-cleansing sense of arrival. For the first time in 9 long years, he wasn't chasing ghosts. He was holding his daughter, and she was real. But life didn't suddenly become easy. It rarely does. In the days that followed, Daniel tried to tread lightly. He showed up every afternoon with small things: books, school supplies, warm meals. He didn't force himself into Emma's life. He simply let her see that he was there again and again until she started expecting him, hoping for him. Margaret remained cautious, protective. But one evening when Daniel brought over a framed photo of Isabel, the same one she used to keep in her bedroom, he caught her wiping away a tear. "I loved her," he said gently, "and I love the little girl she left behind." Margaret didn't say much, just nodded and added the photo to the altar in their tiny living room. Then came the day Emma asked, "Can I come see where you live?" Daniel froze. "You mean my home?" She nodded. "I want to know what it's like." He smiled, trying not to let emotion break through his voice. "Only if your grandma comes too." That weekend they arrived at his penthouse in the heart of downtown Chicago. It was towering, glass-wrapped, filled with polished surfaces and cold silence. But as Emma walked through the hallway in her 2 small shoes and wide eyes, the place seemed to warm up. "This place looks like a hotel," she whispered. Daniel chuckled. "Some people say that. Want the tour?" She nodded eagerly and they explored every room. Emma stopped in front of a large window with a view of the whole city. "Do you think I can see my school from here?" "Maybe," he said, kneeling beside her, "if you show me where to look." When they reached the guest bedroom, Daniel hesitated. He opened the door slowly, revealing a newly decorated room. Pale pink walls, a bookshelf already filled a small desk, and a bed with a canopy like a storybook. Emma didn't move at first. Then she whispered, "Is this mine?" "If you want it to be," Daniel said. She stepped inside, looked around, and then turned to him. "Can Grandma have a room too?" Daniel smiled. "She can have the whole floor if she wants." That night they stayed for dinner. Daniel made spaghetti terribly. Margaret took over in the kitchen, laughing for the first time in weeks. Emma sat on the countertop, swinging her legs and singing softly as the scent of garlic and tomatoes filled the air. And for the first time in his life, Daniel Bennett's home felt like a home. Still, something lingered unresolved. The betrayal. He couldn't forget what Richard had done. So a week later, he walked into Richard Caldwell's office without warning. The confrontation was quiet but blistering. When Daniel laid the letters on his former partner's desk, Richard's face drained of color. "I loved her," Richard whispered, almost in defense. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't curse. He simply looked at the man who had stolen 9 years of fatherhood from him and said, "You didn't just break my life. You rewrote hers." 3 months later, Richard Caldwell was sentenced to prison for tampering with federal correspondence and obstruction of justice. Daniel didn't feel vindicated, just at peace. Like the chapter had closed finally. As fall settled in, Emma's world transformed. She was enrolled in a new school closer to Daniel's home, though she still visited her old neighborhood every weekend with him. She never forgot where she came from. That was something Daniel admired most about her. One afternoon, as they walked past a street musician near the park, Emma paused and dropped $1 in his guitar case. Then she whispered, "That was me." "Not long ago." Daniel gently squeezed her hand. "And look at you now." When Thanksgiving came around, Daniel invited both Margaret and Emma to host dinner at his penthouse. The dining table was covered in dishes made from Margaret's family recipes. Emma led the prayer, but nothing compared to the day of her school's winter recital. The lights dimmed, the chatter of parents quieted, and then Emma stepped onto the stage. She wore a simple white dress with a ribbon Margaret had sewn by hand. She walked up to the microphone, smiled, and said, "This song is for my mom and for the dad who found me without even knowing where to look." Then she sang the lullaby, soft, strong. Her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was filled with something no money could buy: truth. And when she sang the final line, "You'll always be found by the ones who love you, even through the rain," There wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the performance, as they walked back to the car hand in hand, Emma said, "Do you think Mom heard me?" Daniel stopped, crouched down, and looked straight into her eyes. "I think she's been hearing you all along. That song, it led me to you." And Emma, without hesitation, whispered, "I think it led me to you too." The following spring, Daniel made one last quiet decision. He contacted a lawyer and had papers drawn up, giving Margaret legal co-guardianship. Not just out of gratitude, but because he wanted Emma to always know she had two homes, two hearts, and two people who would never let her down again. One night as he tucked her into bed, Emma asked, "Will we always be like this?" Daniel leaned down and kissed her forehead. "As long as you want me, I'll be here. And even after that, I'll always be close. Just follow the song." And as she drifted off to sleep, clutching a photo of Isabel, Daniel looked out the window at the city that had once felt so cold. Now it pulsed with light, with purpose, with life. Because love hadn't just found him again, it had taught him how to begin. If someone you loved had been taken from you for years, would you fight for them no matter what it cost? Do you believe people deserve second chances even when they've been broken by the past? What did you think of this story? Thank you for staying with us through this emotional journey. If it touched your heart, please comment number 3. If you felt it was just okay, type number 2. And if you're not quite satisfied, leave a 1 below. We'd love to know what country are you watching from. Don't forget to leave a heart, and share this story with someone who needs it. See you next time for another heartfelt story.